Hey guys, welcome back. So today we want to talk about the Stribog, and I want to amend my opinion of the firearm based on something new that has hit the market. But before we get started with today's video, guys, if you enjoy the content that we produce here at the Military Arms channel, please just take a moment to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and also hit that notification bell so you get alerted when we post new videos, and also comment down below because we do love reading those comments. And with all that being said, let's get started with today's video and talk about the Stribog and why I think I'm starting to like the little fella. So the Stribog came onto the US market, and it has been a very attractive firearm for a lot of firearm owners. It's definitely competitively priced, and a lot of folks would say that it was a clone, originally anyway, of the B&T APC-9, which is, a couple $1,000s. And so there was no arguing that the original gun was pretty much inspired by the APC-9, let's say. And that's a good design. It's a solid design. But the original guns were just originally straight blowback, and then they went in a different direction with the A3, and they went to a roller delaying system. And it does make an ever so slight difference in the recoil impulse. At first I wasn't sure, but I've done a lot of shooting of the guns lately, and we'll show you some of that footage because I don't want you to take my word for anything. I like to demonstrate our findings when we do our testing. But the guns are working outstanding. And one of the things I noticed about the Stribog, if you go back and watch my earliest videos with them, I was very critical of the guns because they were unreliable. The first gun that I had gotten was a Generation 1, an A1, that had been modified slightly because they were tooling up for the A3 roller delayed gun, and they're trying to use parts from the A3 and the A1s, which are ATF approved, while the A3s were being ATF approved. There was like a year or two gap in there. And to streamline production, because they're trying to turn down that A1 production line and focus on the A3s, they were putting A3 components into those A1s, those transitional guns. And one of the things that they had taken out of it was a little rod in the receiver that would prevent live and empty cases from falling back into the trigger mechanism if you cleared the gun like this or anything. You would basically have to clear the gun with the muzzle down and run the bolt if you wanted to unload it or clear a malfunction. If you tried to clear it like I normally do with any other firearm, just hold it at an angle like this, just kick the round out, there was a good chance it was going to fall back into the trigger group and cause the gun to be malfunction to the point where you'd have to take it apart perhaps to actually clear the malfunction, or you could sit there and shake it around and try to get the round to fall back out of the action. But I wasn't sure what was the root cause of the Stribog, or Stribog I should say, that's the proper pronunciation. I wasn't sure what the Stribog's performance issues were related to. And by performance, I've clearly demonstrated with several different guns in earlier videos that they were having functional problems with different types of ammunition. And one of the things I noticed early on was that their straight mags had stacking issues. When you would load the magazine, it would become very hard to load on a fresh, brand new magazine that didn't have oil dripping down into it from the action of the gun or things like that. And then I would also demonstrate how I could pop a round out, and the rounds in the magazine would stick in their position and they wouldn't push up, and then I could just shake the magazine like that and rounds would just fall out of the magazine. They went through 3 different generations that I'm aware of the straight magazines. The straight magazines with their generational changes with the pure polymer were mostly internal. I believe they were follower changes trying to get that stacking issue resolved. Later they would come out with the steel reinforced version of the magazine, and at that point I just told people don't waste your money on these because they still have the stacking problem. And again, with this magazine I demonstrated that it was very tough to load, and then it would be possible to push a round out and then just shake the magazine and rounds would just fall out of the magazine because the follower wasn't able to push the rounds up as it should because it was binding internally. I had met with the Global Ordnance guys at an event. It was called the Epic Shoot, and I had met the Global Ordnance guys there who had a Stribog that they were shooting and letting various YouTubers and other social media folks shoot the gun, and they were having reliability issues. And one of the things that I had discovered in my testing was if you sprayed some oil or put some oil in the magazine, it would help to alleviate that binding in the magazine to where the gun would work. And they had taken my advice and they said, hey, thanks for the tip, we saw it in your video, and they were oiling the magazines to keep the guns running. So Global Ordnance was aware that there was an issue with the magazines. That brings us to today's video. What I had told Global Ordnance from my earliest videos was you guys really need to look at a curved magazine to resolve these stacking issues. Changing the followers and putting metal feed lips on the magazines weren't doing anything to improve the function of the magazines. So Global Ordnance went out and designed and had these magazines built. Now, I ordered some, and some were sent to me for testing. They wanted me to test them because I was one of the first critics of the gun and the magazines, and they wanted me to do thorough testing. And I completed that testing, plus I ordered some online, and they're very affordable, like 25 bucks a magazine. So what did I find with the new curved magazines? It's exactly what I had hoped it would be, and that is these magazines resolved all the functional issues I had with the various generations of the guns. The A1, I have two A1s. I have one without the rod in it, one with the rod in it, and I have the A3 roller delay, all of which I had functional issues with at some point or another. Now, before Grand Power, or I'm sorry, not Grand Power, but Global Ordnance had introduced these curved mags, you had people that would acknowledge the fact that the magazines were less than ideal in terms of reliability, and they had companies like Lingle Industries making lower receivers that would accept CZ Scorpion magazines, which are obviously curved magazines. They retail for right around 20 bucks a magazine. They're affordable, readily available, and reliable. And so you had a cottage industry spring up to resolve the issue that Grand Power seemed resistant to doing, so people could get reliable curved magazines out of the guns. And I will say, I tried the Colt conversion kit, and I tried the Lingle Industries kit that you see here, and I met with mixed results. I didn't see this as being a very strong, viable solution. All I wanted was an OEM curved magazine. So we went out and we shot well over 1,000 rounds through the different models, the roller delay and the straight blowback guns, using the curved magazines. I conducted drop tests, full magazines, dropping them onto their polymer feed lips. I dropped them on the sides, ran them over with my Jeep, and of course just fired them after doing all sorts of different, torture tests and things like that to the curved magazines. And what I discovered is these magazines are gold. These resolve all the issues with the previous guns that I was showing you malfunctioning in previous videos. I didn't experience a single stoppage using Federal 124 grain ball ammunition, some Bellum ammunition, and I think that was either 115 or 124 grain ball. Now, I haven't thoroughly tested the guns with hollow points. I don't run hollow points in PCCs or subguns. They're primarily meant for military applications, and these are European guns. They're meant for the warmer ball stuff that's out there. But with all the stuff going on out there, oh, the Strebog is this Ferrari of guns. You need to run the really hot stuff to make them work right. All nonsense. That's nonsense. There's no reason to design a gun that needs plus P ammunition to function. That's silly. And so the guns now with these curved magazines run flawlessly just with regular old American range ammunition that varies in its temperature in terms of how hot the loads are. So yeah, this 30-round magazine is truly a game changer. So if you own a Strebog and you're looking to improve the function or the long-term reliability of the guns, I highly recommend going out and buying these. So let's do a little bit of shooting with the magazine and show you guys that this thing works great. And if you are a Strebog owner, it probably makes sense to take your stick mags, toss them aside, pick up some of these new curved mags. I think you're going to be far happier with them. They're much easier to load. And again, I've had zero stoppages with guns that I previously had stoppages with. If you guys are trying to get into the firearms industry, a great way to do that is to attend Modern Gun School. Modern Gun School will accept the GI Bill, and they have online courses. You can become a certified gunsmith, and they'll make it pretty easy for you to get into the firearms industry. For more information, please check out Modern Gun School at the link in the video description below. So as you can see from the testing that we did, we tested a number of different variables with the magazines. We tested the reliability simply by loading the magazines to capacity and shooting them out of the A1 and the A3 Strebog. Also, I did an over-insertion test with the bolt lock to the rear. I would hit the magazine very hard, trying to get that magazine to go past its locking point, and I was unable to get the magazines to over-insert. So let's talk about what we discovered with our testing. So first of all, the magazines, I purchased 2 of them myself online. The price is very fair for the new magazines. In terms of reliability, we did testing where we just load the magazines to 30-round capacity, did the over-insertion test, and we ran magazines through both the A1 and the A3. So we have the early Gen 1 A1. I can't say early, it has a non-reciprocating charging handle, but this one also has the rod inside the receiver. Then we have the A3, which is obviously the roller delay. So the things I really liked about the magazine, first thing we noticed was in loading the magazines, extremely easy to load. So where previous generations of the magazine, we were actually having to squirt a little bit of oil in the magazine to get them to load, these load extremely easily. So it tells me that they're stacking properly in the magazine. We did some drop tests. We set up 2 magazines, we set aside and marked them, and we set them apart later. They originally had the same piece of tape on them, designated drop tests, but then I wanted to designate one as the feed lip drop test and then the other one as the side and rear drop test. So with this magazine, we loaded it up with 30 rounds, dropped it 5 times on a steel plate from chest height, and we did cause one of the feed lips to crack. The gun fed just fine and cycled just fine, even though this feed lip is slightly cracked. I don't feel that the feed lip cracking is a major issue. This is consistent with other polymer type magazines I've seen without steel reinforcements. The only thing I could say is if you wanted to improve these a step further would be to do like the Gen, I believe, 3 magazine straight mag that has the steel reinforcements up here. But even without that, I feel that the magazine performed surprisingly well. With this magazine, we dropped it 5 times on its butt, then we dropped it on its side. We also loaded the magazine to capacity and drove over it on the steel plate with my Jeep. And this magazine shows no signs of damage whatsoever, where this one just has a slight crack in one of the feed lips, which does not impede or interfere with the function. It does not seem to. This magazine has no visible damage to it whatsoever, just a few scuff marks and things like that. So all things considered, I believe the price is right. Definitely improved the reliability. I had no issues even with the A3, which I have not sent back for repairs. The A3 and the A1 both cycled just fine with the new magazines. Doing drop tests to make sure that, you know, even with the magazine inserted into the gun, dropping it chest height onto steel plates, different angles, everything checks out. I think that the magazines perform to my expectations and perhaps a little bit better. Again, I would not worry so much about the feed lips cracking. That's consistent, again, with other magazines I've tested in the past that are strictly polymer. So, all things considered, I would say that these are definitely improvement over the previous generations of the straight magazines. And I think these magazines appear to have resolved the problems that I was experiencing with the Strebog. I haven't tried it with anything other than ball ammunition, but that's all I shoot. So, in the end, I think this is a definite improvement and a big thumbs up. Good work, guys, over at Global Ordnance. This is what the Strebog needed. This is the A3. This is the roller delay gun, and this is what's currently being imported into the United States. In the future, some other recommendations I might have for the gun would be the ability to put AR-15 pistol grips on it so you can kind of make the gun your own. A lot of folks like to swap out the grips, although I personally find the grip on the gun to be really, really nice. There's plenty of SB Tactical braces out there still for them, and there's a whole little industry that's sprung up to support these with aftermarket parts like HB Industries and companies like that that offer larger bolt releases and bolt stops and all sorts of different selector levers, which are kind of minimalistic in the factory gun. The HB Industries selector levers, I think, are superior to the OEM selector levers. But the roller delay system is actually pretty cool. It's interesting to see how they implemented it because it's so insanely simple. It's much simpler than the HK implementation of roller delay. Very, very simple system. And if you want to know more about the A3, I have an entire video on the gun. Yeah, so again, the magazines seem to have resolved all the issues I have had with the Strebogs. It's funny to think that it really did boil down to the magazines. It wasn't how hot the ammo was. It wasn't, you know, whether or not there was some mechanical flaw in the design. For me, in my experience, it literally boiled down to the quality and the design of the magazines. So as it stands, I think this is a darn good value. I really do. If you pick up those curved magazines, I think you're going to have a good time with your Strebog. And a lot of folks out there absolutely love the things. Guys, if you have any questions or comments, comment down below. We do stick around for the first day or so after a video goes live to answer any questions you guys may have. Also, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel so we can continue to bring you content like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the video description below. I answer all direct communications privately, and also you get early access to videos like this one. And so, again, it's a cool little community. and you can join by following that link down the video description. Also, right here on YouTube, got a little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and consider supporting us here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. Thank you for 13 years of support, and we'll talk to you guys soon.